the 5 best budget modifications for your Benelli TRK 502 or 502X. So first of all, if you've just bought a Benelli TRK 502, congratulations, because personally for me, I think it's a brilliant bike, pretty much straight from factory. But there are 5 pretty simple modifications that, in my opinion, will make it significantly better. And each one's pretty cheap. These will cost me under £50, and most of them are actually cheaper than that. I've owned my TRK for a while now, and these are probably the first 5 things that I would do if I bought one over again. They're all pretty cheap. Most of them are pretty easy to fit yourself, and every single one I believe makes a genuine difference to your riding experience. So let's get to number 1. So first up is a proper phone mount. Now you can spend anywhere from £3 to about 50 quid on these. I went for this quad lock copy from TEMU. I think it cost me about £4, maybe even cheaper, but it is a brilliant bit of kit. Like I said, clearly a copy of quad lock. It just clamps on with a few Allen key bolts there to the bar above your speedo. You can have your maps there. Doesn't interfere with your view of anything. I also just bought a very cheap case, and then you get this patch that you stick on the back with 3M tape. It is rock solid, and then that just clips into place like that, and then bang, you've got your sat nav on your phone, all for under a £5 if you wanted to. Obviously you can buy the quad lock as well. That's probably still going to be under 50 quid, and that's genuinely a good bit of kit, but trust me, both options work, and for the price I think this is pretty unbeatable. Second mod, Oxford heated grips. I think I actually got these, I think they cost me about £37.99 in the sale or something. Now obviously if you only ride in the summer you can skip this, but if you ride year round in the UK, these are genuinely life changing. You've obviously got some wind protection here from these, but these make such a difference. You know, the TRK is brilliant for touring, and these grips extend your riding season by months, and they actually make, you know, winter commuting, you know, relatively pleasant. So the installation of these is a little bit more involved. You need to remove the original grips and wire in the heated elements. You know, it takes probably about an hour if you're handy, but again, you can just pay a bike shop to fit them. And they just work so well. Like, they've got multiple heat settings, really good build quality. You know, they actually get properly warm. I've used these for multiple winters without any issues. Modification number 3 is these crash bar lights. Now I paid again about £35 for these, but you can get them anywhere from sort of £15 to £250 if you wanted to. The TRK's headlight is, I would say, adequate, but you know, in today's traffic, adequate can sometimes not be enough. So I went for this sort of, well, I mean, for AliExpress mid-range, so call that what you will, but I added these spots in. They're bright enough to make a difference, but they're not so expensive that I would, you know, cry if they got damaged. And the clever bit is that the TRK's got 2 unused buttons here, which is perfect for sort of wiring in those auxiliary lights, so you don't need to add any additional switches or drill any holes. So to wire those in, you just identify the spare button circuit, but you can actually find that in your manual as well. You tap into that existing wiring, which is obviously cleaner than running any new cables in. Use some connectors and then just test them. So there they are on, and you can just tell how bright they are. Like, the difference is immediately obvious, and you know, with these you've got better visibility in traffic, but you're also more confident just riding in poor light, and you know, the convenience of using that factory switch is brilliant. You can obviously get these for maybe, you know, probably 15 to 20 quid if you shop around, and some of the really expensive lights might be brighter or last longer, but cheap ones will probably still work fine for most people. Right, the 4th mod is EBC brake pads for the rear. Now again, I think these were about 25, maybe £35. Nothing had to be done with the front brakes, like they're absolutely fine, but the rear brake on the TRK, it's probably a little bit wooden with the standard pads. You you know, the stock pads give very little feed or feedback, and there's not much bite to them, so you end up either sort of ignoring the rear brake or just stamping on it really. And these EBC pads give you much more progressive bite. They're way easier to modulate, and they do have a bit better performance. Changing these is actually pretty straightforward. You just want to unbolt here, remove this caliper, swap the pads and reassemble. It's about 20-30 minutes if you're methodical. You just want to make sure you clean everything. Obviously check the brake condition here for any scoring or excessive wear, and torque everything properly according to the manual. And then yeah, just bed them in for 50-60 miles. I'd say the improvement is subtle but definitely noticeable. You've got more control in slow speed maneuvers, better feel when trail braking, and just generally more confidence in the rear brake. And then the fifth modification is a windscreen extender. Probably about £15. Now this is obviously not going to be essential for everyone, but if you're around 6 foot or taller, trust me, it makes a huge difference. I'm about 6'1", and with the standard screen I was getting, not massively, but buffeted sort of consistently. There's a bit more wind noise, turbulence around my helmet, and it was just generally a bit more uncomfortable on those longer rides. And then with this extender, the wind just goes up over your head instead of hitting it. You get way reduced noise. It's much quieter inside your helmet. You got less fatigue and just overall just better touring comfort. So simple to install. You've just got a couple of clamps here that's like slip over, tighten those up with an Allen bolt, and yeah, that's it really. It's completely reversible if you don't get on with it. I'd say really it's worth testing first, because what works for me might not work for you. If you're sort of 5'8" or 6'4", you might want to leave it, but I really think it's worth it if you're 6 foot or 6 foot or taller. If you do a lot of longer rides, if you commute regularly or sort of tour frequently, for £15 this is definitely worth trying. Right, so in terms of your installation priority, I guess, for these and the budget for each, I think I'd go the phone mount first, because it makes such a difference and it's so cheap. It's just like essential for navigation anyway. For me, then I'd go the windscreen extender. Again, that's about £15, but you're going to want to test that first to see if you even need it. After that, heated grips is coming up to sort of autumn now, and anyone who's ridden a motorbike in the winter knows that that sort of ice cold death grip is just incredibly painful and just doesn't make it a nice experience. But once you get rid of that, being on the bike in winter can be beautiful again. Then I'd go for the crash bar lights, for like sort of £30-35. Good for safety, good for visibility, plus they look cool. And then after that I'd go with the brake pads, and that's purely because the stock pads are fine, like they work perfectly fine, but as they wear, when you're going to change them anyway, you may as well just upgrade to those EBC ones and just get a little bit more performance, a little bit more modulation. So those are my top 5 budget modifications for TRK 502 and 502X owners. Let me know what mods you've done to your TRK. I'm always interested in budget improvements that actually sort of work. And subscribe if this helps. And just remember that the best modification is the one that gets you out there riding and makes it a more enjoyable experience. I'll see you in the next one.